So I'm here with Lynn Coleman, or known as G. Lynn Coleman.
There you go.
One of my business partners here in Pensacola, Florida. We're here at One Palafox Place, which is
Awesome.
New Digs.
Yep.
Right? New Digs right here on the main drag in Pensacola, Florida. His new office, we're in the process of getting things set up here. But today we want to talk about partnerships. Partnerships. I think we've all been in partnerships that have been good and partnerships that have been horrible. I mean, I don't even want to say not so good,
Right.
because I would rather say horrible. I think that when a partnership goes south, it usually goes south.
There's no in between.
No, there's
It's either
really not.
great or it's terrible.
Yeah, and so we wanted to come today and really talk about partnerships. Lynn and I have been in a business partnership now for about 3 years,
Yep.
and we've obviously had our successes. We've had some bumps along the way, but I can honestly tell you that in this partnership that I've had with Lynn, it has been one of the least bumpy, one of the least stressful partnerships that I've been in. And the deal is, I think that we learn obviously through our successes and failures.
Yes.
And so we want to share with you today really the 7 keys to success or failure in a partnership. And these keys can be utilized obviously in business. If you're an entrepreneur, you can certainly apply these points.
Right.
I think it even go into marriage, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
And so, by the way, I could talk about that a little bit, right?
Right.
Celebrated 14 years
Yeah,
yesterday.
Congratulations,
Thank
buddy.
you,
Yeah.
thank you.
You
So,
got a great wife.
and that's part of it as well. So that'll be another lesson for a different time on the support structure. But anyways, we want to come to you today with the 7 keys to success or failure in partnerships.
Right.
And so we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah. So I mean, we're kind of looking at these things, and they're not in any kind of order because they're all very important.
Right.
And I think the first thing that when you're looking at starting a business, creating a partnership, is vision. Somebody's got to have the vision. And so, and if you're in a partnership, you both have to agree on the vision. And there's a differentiation there between vision and just seeing opportunity.
Right.
Opportunity is not vision.
Right.
And if you're thinking that and you're going into a partnership just because it's an opportunity, run.
Yeah.
Get out, because vision's going to take you where opportunity will not.
Yeah.
And vision will create opportunity. Opportunity does not necessarily create vision.
Right.
So you've got a vision, and vision goes beyond just the dollars. Why are you in business? What is the vision for the business? What do you want to accomplish? How many people you want to help? Those are the things that you should be looking at. If you're in agreement on that, then the vision, you're together. If you got 2 different visions, guess what? Who's steering the ship?
Yeah.
And that's the problem with a lot of partnerships is you got 2 partners that don't have the same vision for what their company's going to do, what their venture's going to do.
Right. And I think that as an entrepreneur, I can even speak for myself, as an entrepreneur, I have done this on so many occasions where an opportunity has presented itself. It looked amazing.
Right.
But what really looked amazing? Was it the partnership? Was it the vision of where that thing was going?
Right.
Or was it the dollar? The potential of what it could do. And I think that so many times, if you're an entrepreneur, that you get bought or you buy into the hype. You buy into the idea of what it could become, but you really don't understand the vision
Right.
as to how you're going to get there or what are the steps it's going to take. And not only that, we oftentimes look past the partnership part of it. We look at, again, we're chasing the dollar. And so I think that any entrepreneur, any business who goes into the idea or into a business with the idea that, oh, we're going to make a crazy amount of money,
Right.
is probably going in on the wrong level, first and foremost. 2, I think that if you go in with the idea of an exit strategy, as long as you're both on the same page, knowing that it's a quick in, quick out deal, you're probably not buying into the whole idea of the vision so much as you are the idea of what you're trying to get out of it.
Exactly.
But again, at least to put you on the same page. So I think vision is probably one of the most, it's the starting point to any partnership.
Yeah, we're all in this to make money. You don't get into business not to make money. But if that's the only thing you're looking at, you are going to miss it.
Right.
Because a business can do so much more. So we're just vision.
Vision.
Make sure you got
Right.
vision, and it's not just about the opportunity.
I think the second one, and obviously it's an obvious one, is trust.
Right.
That you need to know the individuals you're going into business with. I can't tell you, I have been in, I just go over the last 5 years. I've been brought opportunities. I've went into business. I loved the vision.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
of where it was going, the idea. Matter of fact, I think we worked in this particular partnership for 3 years, 4 years. Nobody collected a dime besides the initial investors. We all worked in it daily. And right when the business started making money, they said, we want you out. And it was one of those things. And so it's really, you got to trust your partners.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that if you don't trust the partners or you don't trust the person you're going into business with, or maybe you don't even know them. In my case, I really didn't know them.
Right.
So I really couldn't trust them either. And that was a lesson learned on my behalf because now that company's doing extremely well.
Right.
Now, granted, I got my fair share on the way out. Don't get me wrong. But point being is that I would rather still be part of it versus being out of it. So I think trust is one of the biggest components beyond the vision.
Yeah, and we're business people, so I think going in with both eyes wide open, and trust doesn't mean that you believe everything that's told you.
Right.
Don't be afraid to vet a partner. I mean, vet them. Call their references. Call the people around them. Check their police. See if there's a police record.
Right.
I mean, it is because we live in a day and age. I mean, we're salespeople. Most business owners are salespeople. So you can have an opportunity presented to you, and everybody has an A game.
Yep.
Well, it's partnerships. It's about learning what that B game is and C
Right.
game, because A game's not always going to be present.
Sure.
So don't be afraid to vet a partner and don't apologize for it. Hey, I'm going to check you out.
Yeah.
And then once you feel comfortable, they've got great references, people love them, all of a sudden you can then begin to trust somebody because they have been successful and they've got people that can vouch for their character.
Right.
So,
It's sort of like, I'll go back to my statement at the beginning, it's about marriage, even marriage.
Yeah.
Trust, right? I mean, when you start to date somebody, you're vetting them.
exactly.
I mean, you really are, because we know that they've got their A game on.
Yep.
Usually, and I've seen A game up to 9 months.
Right.
Right. It's usually after that first year, the tread has now worn out a little bit, and so the point is that just like in dating, just like in business, you need to vet these people. You need to vet who you're going into business with, understand their integrity and their character.
Absolutely.
Because those are huge components. Because again, you're hooking your wagon to their cart, or to their horse.
Yep.
And the deal is that if they run it through the mud, they're taking you with them. So it's a huge component to I think success in a partnership or failure.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us kind of into the third thing, which is understanding strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
And there's a couple of components to this, but if you understand strength and weakness as you're vetting somebody, you're building trust, it's going to help you to know how to deal with them as a partner. And like Todd had said, it's very similar to marriage, but I mean, a lot of times opposites do attract.
Yeah.
Even in business.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some guy that's type A sales guy that could sell a refrigerator to an Eskimo.
Right.
And then you've got somebody that's more of a business development guy that's real. I'll just say it, very anal, or that very attentive to details. Usually, that's a pretty good combination for a business if you understand it. If you're expecting that person to be like you, that's a whole different ball game. But that part, and then personality, understanding
it's huge.
as well.
I think that in understanding strengths and weaknesses, my wife, right? She is in the DISC profile. If you know anything about profiles, she is a C personality type, which is she's very, very detail oriented and she's very task driven. I myself am an I personality type, which is on the opposite side of the quadrant. Right? I mean, it's and that means that I am. Give me just the bullet points.
Right.
And if people are there, I'm there having fun too, right? I could care less about the task. And I can't tell you how many partnerships that I've went into and we were both I personality types.
Right.
And so what that really means is if you're looking at 100% of a pie and 25% of it is an I personality type and I'm partnering up with another I, chances are there's going to be parts of the business that are really going to suffer. Probably the accounting, right? The HR, the accounts payable, the accounts receivable. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I's are typically individuals who are salespeople, outgoing, engaging individuals. Your S's and C's are people who are detailed, task-oriented for the most part. They're getting into the nuts and bolts of it to really get the job done. And I can't tell you how many times I partnered with similar personality types.
Oh, birds of a feather.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, Lynn and I'll give you an example. I'm a real high I personality type, which means give me bullet points, right? and give me fun, right? The next shiny object, I'm there. It's it's a good time always, you know. And so Lynn, on the other hand, Lynn is a high D personality type. He's got some C attributes, but he's also got I attributes, which you can also blend multiple personality types. But the thing that Lynn brings to the table in our partnership is that he's also quick with the decisions, but he's very task oriented, you know, and so that picks up the slack oftentimes for myself. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. But point being is that you need to find those strong relationships that have the strong personality types that really work together. And I think that's critical.
Well, and most guys don't even understand that. If you are someone and that's just totally Greek to you, it's like you don't. We have some resources we can share with you. You can contact us. This whole DIST assessment, we have resources for that we can get to you. But it's very. I mean, you really do need to do that.
I think that you need to understand your strengths first. You need to know who you are, and really what do you bring to the table.
Right.
And I don't think if you don't know what you could be like, well, Todd, I think that I'm really good at sales, but I'm really good at this too. That's great. That's a good idea. You think but I think that it's a definitive that you should know who you are first and foremost to know your strengths. So that way, when you're going into a partnership, you can lay it on the table. Look, this is what I do. This is what I do well. This is what I do not do well. Imagine if you went into an interview.
Yeah.
A business interview, or even, if some of you are still working a job, that's fine too. But point being is that if you go into a job interview and they ask you what your strengths are, you could definitively say, this is what I do well.
Exactly.
And you know what? There's nothing that's more appealing about a person when they can tell you what their weaknesses are.
Right.
Because you're like, oh, I know now. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, and I think with young people, just as offshoot here, young people, if they could do this, young business people out there, just encourage you, figure out what that is.
Yeah.
Don't. If you are not one that could ever be stuck in a cubicle, why not take a job in a cubicle?
Right. Or manufacturing.
Yeah. But I mean, it's vital. There are resources there for that. And I encourage you to do that. Invest in yourself, invest in the partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one we've got is, I think it leads right into it, is communication.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, we talk about this and people would think that that's probably number one. I think that you need to get through the dating phase first because I think that we over communicate when we initially get started. It's when the relationship gets established that communication tends to fall off a little bit. It's sort of like we run in our own lanes, we do our own thing, and what happens is that when you start doing your own thing, there's a divide that starts to take place.
Right.
And I'll tell you, even in today's society as a whole, give you an example, apps. Let's talk about mobile apps for a second, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the many businesses, obviously, that we've kind of got our hands in. But point being is that even with mobile apps, we have desocialized, as a society. I mean, we do not want to talk to anybody anymore.
No.
I was having a conversation with one of my mentors over the past couple of days, and the comment that he made is, why don't people pick up the phone when people call? He's like, and he asked me a good question. He asked me a great question. The question was, he goes, how many times has somebody called you that you didn't pick up the phone? Or not only that you didn't pick up, but you didn't even call them back the same day.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he goes, why?
Right.
And I'm like, I'm scrambling, right? I'm like, well, it's because I'm busy. I got to change my train of thought. I got to do. We all have excuses, but the bitter reality of it is we think about our time for one, and we're like, I'll put off today what I can do tomorrow.
Right.
And then it just kind of compiles. But point being is that we've desocialized as a society in communication, and that is probably one of the biggest reasons why partnerships fail and why marriages fail.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Lack of communication, and you can kind of go up from there.
Yeah.
Personality traits, trust, and understanding why we did this in the first place. Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking about that when we were talking about the communication part. With a partnership, there should never be surprises.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's surprises, unless it's a surprise, like we just won a big deal and we're all surprised we got it and we can go party about it.
Right.
Because that's a good surprise.
Yeah.
But anything else is not acceptable. A partnership there should be so much communication that you know exactly what's going on. There's no surprises, because surprises that are not the big deal are usually not good.
Yeah, it's usually you're trying to hide something.
Yeah, so the communication has been broken down, and if communication is broken down, you're not going to continue to have a successful partnership.
And I think, yeah, exactly right. If there's surprises, it's because communication is broken somewhere along the line.
Right.
I mean, that's the bitter reality of it. I mean, and in a partnership, you should be talking. How many times do you think we talk a day?
Yeah, 2-3 times a day.
At least.
Yeah.
At least. And we're texting back and forth as well.
Oh, yeah.
And we live across the country from one another.
Literally.
I mean, you're in Pensacola, Florida. I'm in Northwest Ohio.
Right.
Lost in Middle America. Right. But point being is that we talk, and so people like tell you that long distance relationships don't work. No, they do work. They work. But you got to know all these things. You got to be able to communicate effectively.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, the next one that we had talked about, though, was expectations, which goes in. We kind of thought about, was that before communication, after communication? But expectations are so important because, and it goes along with everything else. If you think about it, expectations, if you have the wrong expectations of a partner, then there's going to be frustration, there's going to be disappointment, all these different things are going to start it'll start eating away at the relationship because there's unrealistic expectations or unspoken expectations. And so it goes back to communications, pulling these things. If your expectations should never be beyond what the person's capabilities are.
Right.
And that's why you need to know about the person. So it's kind of pulling all these things together because expectations should be in regard to, hey, I expect you to, we all expect to do our best.
Yeah.
Really. It's really about
you hit it on the head. I mean, I can tell you about a recent business venture that I was in. This was a rookie mistake. I mean, it was, and I knew it.
Right.
But I bought into everything but the first 4 that we've already talked about. And I had a company, and obviously it was a kind of off the cuff company, right? And I ended up going and finding these guys that have been in business, and entrepreneurs do this all the time. I get asked questions about this, and the thing is we get so close to it oftentimes that we don't realize that we do it. But anyways, I digress. I'll go back to the first thing. But anyways, I had this company, and I ran into these 2 guys who have been extremely successful in previous businesses.
Right.
And one of the things, they loved the product idea. They loved what we were doing. They wanted in. And one of the things that they wanted equity in my company in exchange for them helping us grow the company. Right? And so what do? We gave up a good portion of our company with the idea, with my own expectation, that they were going to take our company from here to here. Right? So I went in with this huge expectation, and man, these lofty numbers were being tossed around, and I had no idea. I'm thinking, yeah, all right, this is a total win. And 6 months down the road, we weren't close. A year down the road, we weren't any closer. A year and a half down the road, 2 years, and I come to realize I've given up a portion of my company now.
Right.
And I had this expectation that these guys were going to single-handedly take our company to the next level.
Right.
That I had this expectation that I never communicated to them.
Yep.
I had this expectation that I put them on a platform. I put them on a pedestal, and I said, "Hey guys, this," but I never told them.
Right.
And the thing is what happened? Well, disappointment, obviously. Right. A lot of hard work, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and a lot of money was dumped into this company that I willingly just gave away because I set an expectation, a false expectation, and I never communicated it to them.
Right.
And so those guides were never set. Not only that, they didn't set any expectations for me. So when we got together, when the company started to fall apart, there was this thing where nobody really knew what to expect from the other partner. And so I see this, and I'll kind of give you a couple of good examples of this. Shark Tank.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? And I just seen this thing called, it's right after the CNBC show, The Profit. It's called Adventure Capitalist, right? It's a new thing, whatever. But this guy had created and raised millions of dollars for this new technology of helmet cams and GPS things for bikers. And he had 3 adventure capitalists sitting in front of him, and they didn't want to put their own capital into the business, but they said, we'll sit on your advisory board. Each of us want 2.5% equity. Just to sit on your advisory board. By the way, we're not going to put our own money into it. let me just tell you something. When they're not willing to put their skin in the game, I don't care if it's their time or not.
Right, exactly.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Because statistically, entrepreneurs who have succeeded in the past only have a 35% chance of succeeding again. Do you know that? I mean, isn't that crazy?
I know. You'd think it'd be 80, 90, 100%.
Right. You think that you could throw money at it, but it's only 35%, which is better than 20% of a new business, but it's only 15% greater. So you're willing to give up equity in your company for an additional 15% chance, which is still if I go back to grade school, anything in the 50s was a failure.
Right.
So I'm just saying, expectations are so huge, and they have to be communicated.
Yeah, and I think they have to be defined, and that's part of the communication. But don't be afraid to define the expectations. Sit down and define them, because the worst part, even being on the other side of it, if they're not defined and communicated, then the person that you're disappointed in, they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
But if they're defined, hey, guess what? There is accountability.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
So it's just, those things, the expectations. The other part of that, expectations, is I believe that everybody's got to carry their own weight.
Yeah.
And we had talked about this, because if you're defining that and you have expectations, what is your expectation? Your expectation is that there's equal effort, equal participation. Not everybody can do the same thing. Sometimes you can't base that on revenue, because you might be a guy that brings in the big deals, but it's not going to happen unless you have the other guy that can deliver. He's the deliverable guy. But if everybody's participating, and one of the things that I think kills a lot of partnerships is you've got expectations, but then the expectations should be tied to equal effort.
Yeah, exactly right. Equal sacrifice.
That's it.
Because and it goes back to where Lynn was just stating, is that you may not be doing the exact same thing, but you're doing something different, but you're still working in it. You're still working. I retract that. You're working on it. And so the point being is that it has to have that equal sacrifice. It has to have that equal workload, and that goes back to your participation clause.
Yeah.
Make sure that in any kind of agreement that you set up, that there is a participation clause. Set the expectation up front, and then that way, what you have the right to do as a partner is call them to the carpet.
Exactly.
When things are not lining up, when you feel like you're kind of the one taking it on the chin a little bit, you can say, look, this is what's going on, and what it does is that leads right into the next point, right?
Yes.
Which is emotions.
Emotions, yep.
When you have it written out, the expectation's set, it's been effectively communicated, what happens now is you can take the emotions out of it.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about how am I going to say this, or how are they going to react, or what is this going to do to our partnership. The emotions are a critical component. You always hear, this is business, it's not personal.
Exactly.
You hear that all the time. But you know what? And in my opinion, you should keep the emotions out of it, right? But at the same time, I think any effective partnership has emotion in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a tie there.
Right.
And so the thing is that you've got to be able to better or be able to define what those are, so that way you know how the emotions are going to transpire.
Well, yeah, and your emotion, just think about your emotions, emotional decisions. And that's one of the reasons, Todd and I think some of the things we've done, a lot of it's we've learned in other partnerships what not to do.
Right.
So this has been way better.
Right.
But the emotions, we all get tied emotionally to our decisions.
Right.
If we got an idea, hey, this is what's going to help our company, we get emotional about it. But at the same time, that's where you got trust in your partner, and you talk it out, because you need to remove yourself from the emotions of that decision and be objective about it. So, man, we've talked through stuff, and they've been good ideas, but they really weren't the right time, or they didn't make sense, or it just really was something that really we shouldn't pursue because it's going to get us sidetracked.
Right.
But then you start talking it through, and then all of a sudden, because you've had the communication, you can remove yourself from the emotional piece of it. And you need to trust your partner. If they're not emotionally attached to your decision, it's like, okay, what are the good points, bad points, and then you can do it right. Emotion can kill things, though.
Yeah, this is why they tell you that you should never work with family.
Right, exactly.
It goes back to the point of, it's because emotions are already involved. There's already a history there.
Right.
Same thing goes with close friends.
Yeah.
Right? There's already a history there. There's a built-on relationship that you're building this upon, and maybe that foundation is not solid for business, right? I mean, it's solid for you to maintain a relationship, but it's not solid for business. And I think that when emotion gets involved, like Lynn was saying, is that irrational thinking takes place,
right?
And it makes it it muddies the waters. It makes it, not only that, grudges start to be held.
Yeah.
I think that a grudge is one of the things that in a business partnership is poison.
Right.
I mean, the minute you think that something's going awry and you can't communicate it effectively, or the expectation wasn't established, and the vision may have gotten lost, and resentment sets in, it is a done deal.
Well, I think emotions are always tied to personal. It's like if somebody disagrees with me, if Todd disagrees with me about something, if I take that personally, then I would let my emotions limit me from a good decision. Because all of a sudden I'm taking it as an insult to me. Well, no, it's not an insult to me. He just didn't think it was a good idea, and we need to talk about it. And there's probably wisdom in there in between somewhere. So I just think that if you can keep it from getting your decisions are emotional, don't let it become personal if there's disagreement, because emotions will kill a business.
Yeah, I think and it's kind of just popped up, is that there's two sides to every story.
Yeah.
I think that we get so quick to jump to conclusions because we're emotionally vested that we don't take time to hear out the other party. We draw our own conclusions immediately upon a scenario or situation, lack of communication. But point is, we draw our own conclusion, and then what we do, we avoid the communication because now we're upset because we're emotional, and we don't want to have that. And so what happens is, then the expectations start to fall apart. Reality versus expectations start to creep apart. And then we know conflict resides, Conflict resides between reality and expectations. The further they're apart, the bigger the conflict. So point being is that, and it all stems from emotions.
Exactly.
So anyways, again, you got to keep the emotions in check. Not saying keep it out, but certainly keep it in check. And that all happens by following the other, 5 points that we've already discussed.
Because you want to be emotional about your business, you want to believe in
absolutely.
it, you want to get psyched out, high fiving the whole nine. That's emotional stuff. But it's just it goes back to me with emotional decisions like that. It's really about trust. So if I'm emotional about something, I need to have already built a relationship and trust my partner. If my partner will put the brakes on, I need to trust that and say, okay, let's talk. Why am I doing that? So, we could probably park there for a whole.
I know, and I got one more thing that came up on this though. I was just thinking, so I'm a guy. I think a lot of guys. I'm going to speak on behalf of guys. I'm not even going to attempt to speak on behalf of women because, everybody thinks and acts their own different ways. But the thing is, for a guy, I think oftentimes as a guy, what I'll do is when I get emotionally vested into a argument, or if I don't see eye to eye, once that's communicated, it's typically off. I'm done with it. It's over. I mean, I could be done with an argument or an emotion in less than an hour. I don't hold a grudge. And the thing is that the reason why I'm telling you this is that the quicker that you can get rid of it, get it off your back, get that monkey off your back, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is that emotion is a weight. And it's a weight in regards to when you're holding it in a negative connotation or a negative perspective. You've got to get that thing off immediately. And the quickest way you do that is through communication.
Absolutely.
And if you don't do that, that will hurt your efficiency. It'll hurt your effectiveness. It'll hurt your business. Plain and simple. Like I said, it's a downward spiral as negative emotion sits inside a partnership.
Yes, it is, man. It is a polluted pool that gets stinkier by the day. So it's just,
absolutely.
So, it's kind of like it's a sewage, but get that out, man. Get it, flush it out.
Absolutely,
But I think the last part, and this is really Todd and I talked about this, is SEA.
SEA, support, encouragement, and accountability.
Yes.
I mean, I think that in any partnership, I don't care whether it's professional, whether it's client to your business to client relationship, marriage. It doesn't matter what kind of relationship it is. This is a critical component to the success of any kind of partnership, which is the support, encouragement, accountability. You need to be able to support one another, support it, whether they're wrong or they're not. The point is you're in it together. Plain and simple. If the deal has been done, if the comment has been made, if the character is in question, You know what? You support them because you know what? You're in partnership together. So the support, you've got to make sure that you're there to help them along the way.
Right.
Anything about support?
Yeah, support, to me, if you are committed to the relationship, support, you got to invest in the relationship too.
Absolutely.
So, as far as support, having your back, but it's more than that. It's being there to help. And I think that ought to be the thing that ought to, with every partnership, that phrase ought to be used a lot. Hey, what can I do to help? If you're helping each other,
right.
Guess what? That help is support. That's what
Absolutely
it is.
Right.
So that ought to be heard throughout your organization. How can I help you? I mean, really, if people will use that term, it's a psychological effect because then all of a sudden Todd knows, hey, Lynn's here he's here to support me. He's here to help me. So help. How can I help you? How can I help this project? And bringing that to the table instead of being critical and negative all the time. I mean, and just as a sidebar, negativity will kill your organization.
Absolutely.
Support, encouragement, accountability, that's a positive thing.
Yeah. The encouragement side of it goes to when, I'll kind of use it in when you're setting goals or you're helping somebody along the way or helping them achieve really kind of where they're trying to go. Encouragement comes back to not utilizing encouragement in a negative way.
Right.
And that means is that I failed at this. It's not about calling out the reason why you failed or putting them on the spot as to why they failed. It's more about asking them what they could have done better.
Exactly.
What could you have done different? It's about encouraging them to keep going, moving forward. Hey, look, we all make mistakes. I mean, we're human, right? I mean, the thing is that, and we'd like to say that we know everything, the more you think you know, the less you really know. So just know that. But the encouragement comes along the lines of, what could you have done better?
Right.
What could you have done different? How can we do this better next time? And that is encouragement. Don't utilize it from a negative place.
Right.
Don't come from the position of like, well, why'd you mess it up? Okay, you'll get it better next time. Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't really go a long way when you say it like that, So that's the encouragement side of it as well.
Well, I think encouragement, I've talked to people around me, close people, my girlfriend, we talk about it. It's not really that difficult to be nice.
No, it's not.
About really being nice, believing in the person, making them better.
Yep.
My partner should be a better businessman, a better person because he's in partnership with me and vice versa.
Right.
I mean, if we're not really encouraging people.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be better because we're in their life.
Right. Right. Iron sharpens iron.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it's about. So again, and then the last thing is the accountability.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably one of the most critical components to this part of it, and really in none like as Lynn stated earlier is that these are really not in any kind of chronological order. They're all, I think, equally as important to your business or your relationship. That you need to make sure that the accountability is in place.
Yeah.
And that is a checks and balances type deal. It's about, okay, you didn't get it done this week. When can you get it done? And really put it back on them. Don't be setting deadlines for your partners. Ask them. Exactly. I mean, you don't really know what they've got going on a daily basis. They know what they've got going on. And if they've got a problem and they can't get it done, then obviously you have the right to come and say, hey, look, right? You had made a comment earlier up here about a participation clause.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? But the thing is that we can only help you if we know.
Exactly.
So the point is, underneath the accountability component is to help keep them accountable. Keep driving forward. Keep your partner, as Lynn stated, pushing them, making them better than what they are today. That's an accountability component. And this not only goes, when I'm talking about business and I'm talking about partnerships in business, this is about life as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that you get intimately involved in your partner's life. If you're not one of those deals where you're hanging out outside the office and you're not talking outside office hours and you're not, you know what? That's fine that you have a business relationship and that's all it is. And I'm okay with that. But they're not as fun. I'll tell you that. They're not as fun. But the point is that it's all about the accountability and being able to help them become better at what at who they are and what they want to be.
Well, in the accountability part, a lot of partnerships they miss it on this because a couple of things, they're afraid to hold their partner accountable.
Right.
And that's because the other things they haven't developed a relationship, or if you are communicating, it's okay to hold the partner accountable.
Yeah.
And for them to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
that sword cuts both ways. So you've got to, and that's going to make us better. Any growth comes from accountability. any kind of recovery comes from accountability. Without
Absolutely.
accountability, I think you cannot become better. You can't grow a business.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So, anyways, that's our 7 points
It was
for
good.
success or failure in business or in partnerships. I'm sorry, in marriage or in business, really, or any kind of relationship in general. But I hope that this has proven to be at least 7 key points that you can apply to your partnership if you're thinking about going into a partnership, or if you're in an existing partnership, on how you can restructure that to where it's a win for both or all parties involved. But point being is that this is what this is what it's about. So again, until next Tuesday, make sure you stick with us. If you haven't subscribed, as well below, shoot us any questions you have. Right? We got our Twitter handles below, our Facebook. Instagram, Facebook, all that is also below. So again,
and the disc, if they're interested in the personality stuff.
Absolutely. And if you want any more information on the disc profile assessment type stuff, let us know as well. We're here to answer. And also, if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer over these videos, make sure you shoot that as well. We're willing to kind of put that out there. Our whole objective is to be able to help other organizations, other entrepreneurs, other people become more successful at what they do. So again, until next time, we'll see you.